to a new world of gods and monsters.
It's alive!
Here's Johnny.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, I'm telling you, brother, it's a frightful sight. See what goes on Halloween night.
Hey everybody, and we're back for episode 26 of Why We Love Horror. Today we're doing horror westerns with Oregon Trail and Bone Tomahawk. John, Melissa, what are you guys feeling about today?
Yeehaw!
Kind of like not really like a subgenre of horror that has a ton to offer, but definitely worth visiting. Sometimes you like to go to your little old abandoned Wild West city in your town and hang out a little bit. So, I mean, unless we're going to count Nope as a horror western, there really haven't been that many horror westerns at all, have there?
No.
Yeah. I do think this is like an untapped area that needs to be explored more. I will say I liked one movie and I didn't like another, but excited to talk about both.
That is fair. So I guess let's get right into it. Let's start with Oregon Trail.
They sent me out to find you.
Where is my family?
They can lead the law right to us. Saddle her and bring her back.
Looks like you and me's partners now. I've always wondered how these things work. Honey, I'm home.
Melissa,
Yeah,
would you like to talk about?
Sure. I'd love to talk about Oregon Trail. So Oregon Trail, it is set winter, Montana, 1870, and a young girl named Abigail is alone, and a group of bandits gets a hold of her. The end.
I like it. That is
I
sort of...
think a little more happened. But yeah, that's a good synopsis.
Yeah, so for this one, let's throw up the banner right away. Let's get right into it. So yeah, it starts with her and her family. They're out hunting, and she is left at the camp. And the dad and son go out. While they're hunting, the son comes across another camp that has people that have been fucking brutally murdered. A lot by bow and arrows, and they find a woman who is basically like hung like a cross with two arrows in both of her hands, and they find out she's still alive, so they grab her and they take her back to the camp, and they're trying to figure out what exactly happened. And during the night, the family, with the exception of Abigail, are brutally murdered by a gang, by slit throats and everything, by just covering their mouth, slitting their throats, and then the son gets an arrow in the face, which is in the throat, mind you, which is a great fucking kill scene. What did you guys feel about the opening for Oregon Trail?
I think, it starts off, it's like you think it's going to kind of be like one of those like survival horror kind of things, because like the family, apparently like they're on a mountain, and whatever they were doing there, it like isn't panning out for them. So they're kind of like starting to shit bricks. Like, we gotta get the hell off this mountain. We're not gonna make it through the winter. So they're booking for like a more safe place to live. They travel for a day. They set up camp. They're just going to hunt food. They stumble upon that massacre scene. They come back. It's just gonna be like a normal night. They find this lady. They bring her back, and then everybody gets killed. Practical effects, really good. I gotta say, like, one of the stronger points of this movie is the practical effects are really good. All the kills don't look like shit, which is something I always look for in a movie that I hadn't heard of prior to watching it.
Melissa, how about you?
Yeah, like I would say the production value seems high or mediocre. Like I don't know what the budget was on this movie because there's no Wikipedia page. No, like I think visually it looks really nice, and like you said, I think the practical effects and the kills were really effective. And I would say like the first 15 minutes of this movie I was really into it. I will say one of my biggest problems is the title of this movie, Oregon Trail, and I know we'll get into it more, but to me a better title would just be like 1870 or Montana or like Oregon Trail spelled as the state.
Or literally anything else.
Yeah, just I have issues with the title because I think it set my expectations in a different way, and the film's not quite about organs.
Yeah, you bring up a good point that when you think of the title of Oregon Trail, especially the way it's spelled, you think it's gonna be this brutal, like you're gonna be seeing organs spilled. Maybe they're fucking taking the organs out of people and using them, or eating them, whatever they have. But then you get to the movie and it's a gang that are just brutally killing people. But it really has nothing to do with the organs. So yeah, I agree that the title definitely.
Yeah, Oregon Trail was made maybe a few years ago. It was called Touristas. Yes. That's Oregon Trail.
Yeah, it's just a very misleading title because again, I do think the like atmosphere was established well like throughout this whole movie. Like it felt cold, it felt like desolate, like alone type of feeling. And I liked like the opening. I thought it was a strong opening. But yeah. Again, we'll get into it more. But also there is an Oregon Trail game that came out a few years ago, which was like a retro survival zombie game, which was awesome. And again, that's kind of where my mindset was going into this movie. And I would say if you do end up watching this movie, lower your expectations.
I want to expand on what Melissa said, because that's like literally like all of the negatives about this movie are just like oversight. It's like it's a ton of just oversights and like missed opportunities. Like everything in the movie, there's a lot of like, oh, this could have been, oh, that should have been. And honestly, like just running with this title and going all the way to releasing it with this title, basically with like a working title, they released it. Like this is like the title you give a movie when you don't want to know what the movie's about, and then you release it. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, it's like Bone Tomahawk 2. That was nice, but that wasn't the case. They gave it this really weird, clunky title, which it does make your expectation. Like I thought it was going to be like really like a crazy gory like Saw level.
Yeah,
but it wasn't. I mean, it's still got some gore and it's got some good kills and everything, but you're right. It's like the dissonance that title causes is a lot.
Yeah, it is a hundred. Like watching it is 100% more of a Western than it is a straight horror movie. Like the production design that you both have talked about is great for this low budget film. It definitely puts you in this world that we're living in. It's just, and we get past the opening and we have the gang grab Abby and are taking her. They take her away, and they, based off that, they have no good intentions for what's going to happen to her if she keeps around, and they end up taking her back to the little abandoned Western town that they're basically staying in, and they have like the jail crossed off and stuff like that. And it looks definitely like, this is another part where the actual town looks really fucking good. Like it definitely looks desolate. It definitely looks like a Western town, and we get to explore more of the gang. You got like the main leader, and then you got kind of like the vicious bald guy who is fucking nuts, and then you kind of got the guy who is not necessarily he is part of the gang, but he's more like the nicer guy that kind of goes, what the fuck am I doing here with these people? Like he's kind of obsessed with what's her name? It is Cassidy?
Cassidy, yeah.
Yeah, Cassidy, yeah. He kind of has a thing for Cassidy, so it kind of feels like the only reason he's still there is to kind of watch over Cassidy and make sure nothing more bad happens to her, because as we find out, Cassidy is being used as kind of a bait of this group. She is put into these situations where she pretends like she is either attacked or is hung up like she was at the beginning, and the gang comes in and takes care of business. And you can tell that you find out she's a prisoner as well. She is not really part of this gang. She's just in the same situation as Abby is about to become. What did you guys feel about Cassidy and the whole idea of her just being bait?
Again, I heard you guys talking about this before I jumped in. Like we talked about plot islands, right? Yeah. And like, what a shitty plan, right? Like I can understand like using somebody as bait, but the lengths they go to like Like, why did you need to mutilate her? This is just to make sure you don't get it. They mess her up. They puncture both of her hands like all the way, like she's impaled on the board. And that's a lot. Like obviously, like they're not expecting to get much use out of her. I guess they're just keep throwing that bait out there. And then they eventually get another young girl, and then they can just discard her. I guess that's the plan, but they kind of leave it on the viewer to figure that out.
Yeah.
Because basically they've been going on for some time with Cassidy as their main bait, and yikes, yikes is a big thing there.
Melissa, how about you?
I mean, bless you all that you remember their names, because that's one of my biggest problems with this movie is I feel like all the characters are very undeveloped and they're just caricatures, like archetype type of characters. Like I think the acting is fine at best, but like just none of these characters I really remember that well. Like I remember Abigail because she's the main gal, I guess, but even that was like another problem is I didn't buy into her. Like if she's going to be the lead of the film, like I just needed her to be a lot stronger of a character. I just needed to understand her motivations a little bit more, just backstory, just something. I don't know. I struggled with the characters in this movie.
Yeah, I'll expand on that too. Like, yeah, the gang itself, the 4 members of the gang are just like stereotypes.
Yeah,
like, you have like your flamboyant dandy leader, the psychopath, the one that's really a good guy, and the idiot. That's it. That's basically the gang. Yeah.
Now let's get to the idiot guy, because we get to Abby's escape where they're on top of like the river that is iced over, and idiot guy Abby tries to escape off the horse again, and she's tied to the rope of him, and he's trying to grab her, and he uses his gun to shoot in the air a few times to get her to stop, and she stops, and the bullets come flying down and take him out. And so it's a Big Trouble in Little China move with fucking Kurt Russell shooting the fucking ceiling, knocking himself out. He gets killed, and it also pierces the river. He falls through, and then she sees her chance. She jumps in to escape and goes down the river. What did you guys feel about the escape of Abby and the stupidity of this guy?
Yeah. I was told in physics class that could actually happen when I was a teenager. Like, things can fall down with the same velocity. And I've never seen it happen in a movie until right now. And I was like, what Mr. Ross said that would happen. So thank you, Mr. Ross, for saying that to us in physics class in high school. And then honestly, we are getting to there's a little bit of a stretching of, we didn't actually get to what happens when she jumps in the water, but I've also seen in a ton of movies that you don't really survive too long under a frozen river. But
yeah, I mean, I know I've been harsh so far. I will say this was a highlight of the movie because I thought it was it was like a funny death in a way. And yeah, it was pretty impressive that she just fucking jumped and then she ends up surviving. I don't know how realistic it is, but I did like it.
I guess you can kind of say like she's of that area, right? Like, so she's like, it's not like we took some city girl and threw her into the icy Montana.
Yeah.
Like, she's of that. So I guess maybe she is of hardier stock than we are and could survive it. So that's what I'm going to say.
I like that.
So they basically, the gang is telling each other that she's going down the river. So they send Cassidy to go and find her. And they basically said, bring her back or you're going to be killed. Like, you're not coming back without her. And
so they sent the girl that they said has tried to escape multiple times by herself with no chaperone. That's suspicious.
Right? And then it cuts to her. It cuts to the guy, Eric, who is ice fishing. And he catches her. And we find out that she survives by him. And he ends up taking her back to his house where he has his pregnant wife. And trying to warm her up and stuff like that. And as this is going along, we cut back to Cassidy tracking her and trying to track her. And she ends up finding the little ice fishing hole that he was using. And this is another part of the plot that I go, okay, kind of a weird way where she finds that and she goes, I'm gonna go back to the original campsite. I'm gonna wait for her there. like the logic of that is fucking crazy. But I guess that's truly the only way to find her from this story. What did you guys feel about this portion of it?
Again, I feel like from the opening, like this movie truly, like the first 15 minutes is strong and like the last 15 minutes is strong. Everything in the middle I think really needed to be workshopped because it feels convoluted. It feels confusing, and I think the biggest problem I have with this movie is it lacks tension, which a good horror movie has tension. And again, like you were saying, I definitely think this is more Western than horror. But regardless, like we obviously chose it for this week, so that's fine. Like it's a horror movie, but it really lacked tension in this middle piece, because I also feel like kind of the reveal of the bandits, I think, happened too soon. Like I would have rather it been a little bit more maybe mysterious, like, oh, there's these or there's these areas that keep getting like ransacked, who's doing it type of thing. But I think just the reveal of the bandits early on kind of kills the whole plot.
Yeah, I would agree with
for
all
tension.
That. I think it's the movie's like 2 hours. It should have been 90 minutes. Like, and
yes.
Like there's the storyboard at the least, the script at the most should have been run through like a few intermediaries, because honestly, like I said, like Cassidy, if I was listening, there's a whole part before they send Cassidy out where they talk about Cassidy trying to escape. Now, if the one girl has already escaped and you're sending the girl who's escaped chase after the escapee, I would have sent the psychopath with her, because that dude actually has he's like the real bad guy, and he's the one with the most developed backstory of anybody in the movie. And like I think, like I said in my review, an above average antagonist, I would say. And I think they could have actually done more with him, less with the other guys, because I think the big reveal, which we haven't gotten to yet, where he's actually the real bad guy, he's actually a decent bad guy, and there's some real tension around him, but only when he's on screen.
Which let's get to that, because we get to the point where when Cassie, when she's with Eric and his pregnant wife, she ends up stealing the horse to go back to the camp, because as we figure out, she's going back for her family's horse. That's what she really wants.
Yeah, it's the only family she has left.
Yeah. And as that's happening, Reese, who is a bald-headed psychopath,
and for some reason he has analgesia, like he doesn't feel pain.
Yeah, which we figure out they really fucking show why he feels no pain with this. He decides, you know what, fuck this, I'm gonna go find them myself, and he ends up going to that bar where he finds Eric and the bartender, and he ends up like stabbing Eric's hand to the bar to keep him there, and he ends up beating the shit out of the bartender. And then one of the brutal scenes, which they show enough because it's low budget enough to where they weren't really going to show the full thing, but he ends up poking his eyes out with his own fingers. He uses his fingers to poke the bartender's eyes out.
Who plays the bartender, Mike?
Oh yeah,
Lieutenant Dangle. It's Lieutenant Dangle. It's Thomas Lane.
Yep.
So I was listening for the whole time. I'm like, man, somebody from the state better show up in this freaking movie. And then Thomas Lennon shows up, and I was very happy. So
it's a fun cameo.
Yeah,
it's 100% a fun cameo. What did you guys feel about the bar sequence and getting to kind of know more of Reese through this?
Yeah, like this is great. Like I wanted more of this. Maybe I was just blessed from last week with Inside. I don't know. I just wanted some gore.
Yeah.
Wanted more.
I think, and most of the gore happens with Reese himself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because like, he gets injured and he's just like whatever, and like he'll like cauterize himself like crazy. Like honestly, if the gang was just Reese and like maybe like two no names, way better. Like you didn't even need the dude from True Blood in there, like, at all. You didn't need Logan as the leader of the gang. Reese should have been the leader of the gang.
No.
Yeah.
Also, what was he doing with his accent? It was very confusing. Anyways,
he was a dandy. He was doing Benoit Blanc, I think.
So through this whole portion, we figure out that, as John alluded to, that Reese is the true villain of this movie. He ends up taking out the leader of the gang himself, knocking him to the floor, and basically going.
And then what does he do to
him? You go ahead, John.
He shoots him in the crotch region.
Yes.
Very, very convincingly. Yeah. Like RoboCop style crotch shot.
And we get to this portion where they are now at they're still in the western town, and we're getting to what we think is the final battle of this, where it's Abby and Cassidy finally, in a way, joining together and trying to just get out of there together. And Eric is there with them as well, and they are trying to escape this hellhole. And that's when Reese is shown that he is not a man to be fucked with, even when he is lit on fire, completely on fire. Like, this isn't just like a hand motion. He gets his whole fucking body consumed by this fire and presumably dies from it, from what we could tell, until we find out this man feels no pain and he is still fucking kicking. What did you guys feel about this, like, final hurrah in the Western?
We also left out the little bit where the other guy, Felix, in the gang is like, he's really like a decent guy, and he's like giving away his gun, and like he gets shot. And,
yeah.
Well, like, who cares? Yeah. Like, who cares? He was there too. His dad was a Mexican. He tells his whole backstory where his dad was like a Mexican revolutionary, and it's his dad's gun. And he's dead. Anyway, yeah, and then Reese just like kicks the shit out of everybody.
What's about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, in regards to like the effects, like I thought this was an awesome sequence, and like considering if I'm remembering right, I feel like it was kind of more at night, and I thought it looked really good, and I thought the effects were awesome, and I was like, yes, I wanted more of this, more effects, more blood, more things. But yeah, no, this was great.
Yeah, I don't know.
Highlight.
Yeah, I didn't dive deep enough to the IMDb page to know who the stunts coordinator was. But I guarantee that burn effect, Kane Hodder approves of that freaking.
Oh yeah,
that was a great burn. Like,
yeah.
You know, these are the things that like kept me in the movie. Like every time I was like, that's a stupid decision. That's a shit dialogue thing. Why are they doing this? Oh, that burn is fucking awesome. It's like I have these huge ups and downs with this movie.
And then we get to the true ending where Eric is coming back to his house, and as Eric arrives, we see Cassidy, we see Abby, and then we see his pregnant wife Nora, who is sitting there at the table, and we see Reese, who is burnt to a crisp, sitting there as well with the gun to them, basically. There to fuck shit up, and he's basically telling them, "This is my house now," and they are mine at this point. And he ends up shooting Eric in the leg, and is starting to go ballistic on the rest of them. Just basically
and he shoots Cassidy. You know?
Shoots Crazy. Cassidy, and not only shoots her, but then ends up stabbing her with a fucking arrow through the chest, which is another cool fucking sequence, because when you see that fucking arrow go through her chest, that's some great shit right there. She falls down to the ground, and Abby and Nora are trying to fight him off. And that's when we find out that, again, Cassidy is still alive. So what did you guys feel about this ending here? That all of them versus the psychopathic Reese?
It ended the way it had to end.
No, I thought it was a strong ending. Yeah, he looked insane.
Great makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The great makeup. You know, I do love a really disturbing dinner scene in a horror movie. You know, like I'm about that. So I did like that.
And like honestly, he dies. All he needed was a hug. And he got a fucking.
Oh yeah.
So he got the hug to end the hug.
Not only does she hug him, but then Abby ends up kicking him to fall on top of her to really just impale his ass with the fucking arrow, which is fucking fantastic. But yeah, is there anything that we haven't mentioned that you guys would like to bring up before we get to the actual rating?
Hey, look, I know we're not like a huge, we're not a huge YouTube channel. We don't have millions of subscribers. But listen, if you're watching, send your scripts to me. I will happily read them. I'll read through them. And I'll tell you what shouldn't be in the fucking movie. I'll help you guys. I promise. Send them to me. I'm willing to do the work for free.
Melissa, how about you?
I really don't have anything to add. And I'm sorry that I was so harsh on the movie. But yeah, I'll save the rest of my thoughts for the rating.
I guess let's get right into it. I guess I will start for this one. The things that were fucking great were fun. Like, I really enjoyed them. The biggest complaint that I have of it is it's just meandering throughout. If this was cut like a half hour, maybe even 40 minutes cut out of it, I think it could have been a tight little horror thriller here. But with that said, I still gave it a 3.5 because what I liked about it, I really liked. I love the gore that they do show. I love the beginning and I love the ending for sure. I think it was what they were going for with those sequences. They definitely pulled off, and I enjoyed it. So I went 3.5 VHS tapes. Melissa, how about you?
So I was pretty harsh on this movie. And I feel bad because these are the type of movies I want to support. And I really wanted to like it more, but I just have to be honest with myself. And I really didn't like it. So I'm going to give it 2 VHSs. I think there's just too many issues with it. Like, I think the title is bad. I think the script is bad. I don't think the acting is that good. I do think the effects were great. I do think the atmosphere and like the production overall was solid, but that just wasn't enough for me to like rave about it more. But I would much rather support these type of films than the next MCU movie personally. Like I'd rather continue to see more Oregon Trails, even though I didn't love it.
Yeah, I like that. And John, how about you?
Piggybacking on what Melissa said, I watch the Jagged Edge movies, guys. I support that shit. So if I'm supporting that hot, steamy garbage, I would love to support more movies like this. I'm with Mike rating-wise, 3.5. And just to jump on the point, we talked about Inside last week. We all love Inside. Inside's a great movie. Inside is 82 minutes long, right? Oregon Trail is 112 minutes long.
Yeah.
Just take those 30 minutes and give me Inside as a Western, and you would have freaking 5-star movie. Like, there's a lot to love about this movie. Honestly, a lot of dialogue is odd. A lot of the plot choices are odd. Like, really just needed like an experienced set of hands. I mean, obviously, the guy's previous movie, he did Drop Dead Gorgeous. Maybe don't jump into a horror Western right away. Maybe workshop it a little bit. As much as I love your comedy is great. Don't ever change. 3.5.
I like it. So that was Oregon Trail, which means we are moving on to the Kurt Russell Western epic, Bone Tomahawk.
Yes.
Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we are about to receive. Ambush!
John, would you like to take this?
Sure. Bone Tomahawk is a movie about there's a town out west, and it abuts onto an area where there seem to be it's kind of like a mystical Indian burial ground type place, and they're maybe getting a little too close to it. And these are not your typical Native Americans. They are of a more primal variety, and the primitive and the modern clash in a very gruesome and disturbing way.
I like it. That was perfect. So before we start with the plot of this, I want to just bring up the cast of this fucking movie, because this is an insane cast. We start with Sid Haig and David Arquette. Then we move with the main cast of Kurt Russell, Patrick Wilson, Matthew Fox, and Richard Jenkins. Then we also get little things from like Sean Young, Jameson Newlander from Lost Boys, James Tolkien, the principal from Back to the Future. Like, this cast is fucking crazy. What did you guys feel about the cast of this movie?
And Geno Seegers is in this movie. Like I said it last week. Geno Seegers is freaking great. Actually, a couple of him and Lily Simmons, who are both in my favorite television show of all time, Banshee, are in this movie, and they're both great, and they're great. Geno Seegers should be in everything, just killing people. I think is the way it should be.
Yeah, Richard Jenkins is my favorite show of all time, or one of them is just 6 Feet Under. And obviously he's just fantastic and everything. And apparently he was like specifically written for his role, which I think I can see that. Like, I think he's great. Yeah, no, I think the characters are so well written, and just the cast is like awesome. And supposedly even more star-studded people were gonna be in this, but due to scheduling, it didn't work out. Was Peter Skarsgård, Jennifer Carpenter, and Timothy Olyphant were like attached to it at one point, which would have been interesting. But hey, this cast is great. Yeah.
As Craig Zoller gets like people in his movies.
Oh yeah,
they show up. It's great.
So we start with Sid Haig and David Arquette, who brutally murder the shit out of people where they disturb the Native American ground, which they are this group of Native Americans known as the Troglodytes, which is a fucking awesome name for them. And as they're disturbing the site, Sid Haig takes one out, and he gets taken out right the fuck away, and David Arquette is able to escape. But what do you guys feel about the opening of this movie? With the viciousness.
Again, we have a gang of bandits that are just brutally murdering innocent folks and just stealing their stuff. Wow, how do we pick them? I don't know how we pick them. And then like it's kind of like an accident, right? Like they because like the one guy, like David Arquette, kind of screws up not killing the guy right. He's not So Sid Haig, being the grizzled, professional bandit, shoots the guy. The gunshot alerts something, and they go, "Well, we got to get out of here." And they hightail it accidentally across whatever their ritual site is. And then that is the one mistake we need to just make every bad thing in this movie happen. Thanks a lot, guys.
Melissa, how about you?
Yeah, no, I loved the opening, and I was really excited about seeing those two. I was sad to see Sid die so suddenly, but again, it got me invested really early on. So yeah, no, I thought it was a really strong opening.
So let's get right into it by talking about what transpires once David Arquette comes to the town. Basically, David Arquette buries the loot that he has, and he goes into the town where he goes to the bar and is confronted by Kurt Russell and Richard Jenkins, and they're basically asking him, what are you doing here? Like, why? And David Arquette is basically going, I'm just here, trying to grab a drink, just moving along. Kurt Russell ends up shooting him in the leg, and they end up taking him to the jail cell where they run into Matthew Fox. And Matthew Fox, he ends up going for Patrick Wilson's wife, who is a doctor, to kind of fix up David Arquette's leg. So we get the main source of the cast through this little scene here of them at the jail cell. Kurt Russell, Richard Jenkins, and Matthew Fox decide to just go home and sleep and leave Lily Simmons' character Samantha alone with David Arquette and with the other deputy who kind of doesn't want to be there, but he has to be there because no one else can do it. And we all thing about Matthew Fox is not Matthew Fox, Patrick Wilson is that he has a problem with his leg. His leg is all fucked up, so he is consistently limping throughout this movie and having to use a cane. So that comes in handy later on of why that's important. But what did you guys feel about this lead up of the sequence of them basically getting them alone and meeting the rest of the characters that we see throughout this?
I think Matthew Fox as John Bruder is like peak Matthew Fox. He will never touch this level again. Like what, if you liked him in Lost, you don't know what good acting is. This is fantastic. Like this is the best I've ever seen him do anything. Matthew Fox, golf clap, chef's kiss to you on this.
Yeah, I unfortunately did not see Lost. I've only seen him in Speed Racer, so.
There you go.
No, I really liked his character a lot. Again, I really think all the characters are really well written. Like I feel like we understand them from this opening sequence, like just again from just the little interaction that we get early on. I think it's established kind of like who these characters are, and I don't know, I really liked it. I thought Kurt Russell, man, he was just eating this up. Like I love that mustache. I love his vibe. He was the standout for me, but I would say Matthew Fox and Richard Jenkins is probably like right underneath as a close second. But
yeah, I will say
because we have so many great Kurt Russell roles that we've seen him do before. I think for Matthew Fox, this is like the first time I was like,
sure.
I was like, is that Matthew Fox? He's kicking some ass, Matthew Fox. Yeah. Kurt Russell, I expected that out of him. Matthew Fox never expected this. It was great.
The Western Kurt Russell is an ultimate Kurt Russell, man. When he goes into the Western state with the mustache and everything, that man fucking shows up to play. But yeah, I also agree. Matthew Fox, this is definitely his top role. He's fucking amazing in this movie. Which gets to the next day where we find out that the stable boy was brutally fucking murdered. Yeah, in like the where they're keeping the horses in the barn, and they go to the sheriff's place where everyone is missing, and they have an arrow there. Everyone else is gone, so they figure out that they were taken by the troglodytes. So Kurt Russell and Patrick Wilson, Matthew Fox, and Richard Jenkins decide, you know what, we're going to go after him. And Patrick Wilson, the only reason he is really wanting to go is because he wants to get his wife back, and he's all fucked up in the leg. So already, they know that they can't stop him from going, but they kind of telling him, "You're gonna be a hindrance to this.
You're gonna slow us down, baby."
Yeah, you're gonna fucking slow us down. So Kurt Russell basically tells them straight out. He goes, "We're not gonna wait for you. Like, you're gonna have to keep up with us, or we're gonna have to figure out a way to just do this because we're not gonna fucking wait for your ass through this journey, because we need to get there and we need to all be on our top form to deal with these fucking guys."
Yeah.
So they go off on their journey to find the troglodytes, and as we first get like the first sequences of them traveling, we really get a lot with Richard Jenkins and Matthew Fox, because Richard Jenkins does not like Matthew Fox at all. And this John Bruder, he just does not care for him at all. And as you find out, one thing you find out is John Bruder has killed a lot of Native Americans, and Richard Jenkins definitely has a problem with that. And you find out that he's also killed women, Native American women as well, that he's just as brutal, but we don't really figure out why he has done this until a little bit into the movie. Like right now, we just see him as kind of like a cold-blooded asshole.
he's like a full-fledged, like he's like a Quick and the Dead level gunslinger.
Yeah,
the character. Yeah,
he's just fucking brutal. Melissa, what did you?
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit from what you were saying. There's some really great dialogue in this movie, and I love the line when like when we first find out like the boy is killed, and like I kind of also like the mentality, like the whole town's like rolling up their sleeves, like let's figure this out, let's do this, because it's you can tell it's just like it's this very close knit small town. But I love the line from Kurt Russell that was like, "Why are you my breakfast?" when like he comes into his house, and I believe him and his lady like we're making love either the morning or the evening, and he's kind of in his like long johns, and I just like, okay, I love this. So I had to mention that. I also do love the interactions between Matthew Fox and Richard Jenkins, and like I like the line of like, smart men don't marry or something like that.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, okay.
Like even Richard Jenkins that part goes, okay, yeah. You're right. He finally gets the levity that they need, that's the moment that they kind of actually come together throughout the rest of the movie, is that's when he finally just goes, okay, this guy's all right. He's not as bad as I thought he was. Which we get to the first camp that they do, where we see that John Bruder is able to kind of put security around the camp with little strings and bells around, and he basically tells them, he goes, you hear that bell ring, I don't care what it is, you shoot. Doesn't matter, you wake up, you shoot, no matter what. And we find out that's probably a good reason to do that, because two guys end up showing up at the camp, and Kurt Russell, this is a brilliant part here because it's completely dark out. So Kurt Russell basically tells them, you light a match and you don't let it burn out. I want to see you the entire time. So you light a match, you throw your guns down, and you keep walking towards us, and you do not let that match burn. And this is where we see Matthew Fox's John Bruto he does not give a fuck. Within like 2 seconds, he just blows them both away. And he tells them straight, he goes, they were scouts. Like, you guys are fucking morons. These guys are not showing up.
We don't even know if he knows that's true.
Yeah, no, he's just like instinctively.
He has no choice. We have no choice. This guy is, and you start thinking like, yeah, I mean, this guy's slick and he's skilled and everything, but is he also just like a total sociopath? And are you on our side? Okay, you're on our side. Good. Like that's exactly how I feel about that character.
Yeah, an earlier scene too, really quick, when like they kind of learn about the troglodytes. Is
troglodytes,
that right?
Yeah.
Troglodytes. When we learn about that, I think his like role is the professor or something. Yeah. He says something to the effect of like, because he's talking about how he's killed all these Indians, and he's like, that's an ugly boast, and he's like, it's not a boast, it's a fact. It's like, okay. No, I do like Matthew Fox's character a lot because of how the story's going. It's like you kind of feel like, is he gonna turn on the group? Is he gonna like just go rogue? Is he gonna end up kind of being the bad guy? And as we find, no. But like it kind of sets it up almost in that way, which I liked. I liked that tension and kind of
they're from a time where his specific brand of racism was accepted and encouraged. So he's just like this racist sociopath, but he's a good guy.
Which, once they killed the two raiders, they decided to go, the two scouts or potential scouts, they go, we got to go find a new camp. We got to keep moving. We got to keep going. And they end up going to a new camp where it cuts away, and then we just start hearing cutting and a noise, and we just see that that Matthew Fox is being fucking stabbed in like the like it looks like it's an armpit area, but it's kind of like the shoulder area that he's being stabbed at. And fucking Richard Jenkins, Patrick Wilson just fucking pulls a gun out, does exactly what fucking Matthew Fox was telling him to do. You wake up, you shoot, and he fucking shoots him. And the rest of the bandits get away with the horses. And this is where I think we find out a little more about John Bruder, as he goes, my horse would have fought back. I don't know how they stole him without making noise. And they tell him, yeah, your horse did fight back. And he ends up seeing that his horse is all fucked up, and he goes over and he finishes off the horse, which you see that this is the first moment that you kind of see that he does actually have a heart and he does care. And I think it's a little sweet moment between him and the horse of just going, okay, this guy isn't just a complete psychopath. Like, he actually does care. He just cares about certain things. What did you guys feel about this next sequence of the actual Raiders come in and you figure out that this was the whole point of the 2 original Raiders?
You got to have adversity, right? In like an epic kind of quest like this, you have to have some adversity. And like, honestly, it's pretty heartbreaking for that character. Like, it sucks because like he doesn't have much. Like, obviously, he's not the Marion type.
Yeah,
he's definitely not the friendship type, and he's not the racial harmony type. So that horse is all he had. So that sucks for him.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Yes.
So through these camping sequences, we're seeing that Patrick Wilson's leg is getting more and more fucked up, and they like Kurt Russell's at the point of basically going, they need to have a conversation with him and just go, hey man, we're gonna keep moving forward. You got to follow at your own pace, and we're gonna leave rocks and shit to help you find out. And Patrick Wilson is not for that. He's just going, no, I'm gonna get ready, and that's when he ends up having a fight with Matthew Fox, and Matthew Fox is kind of goading him. He's talking about his wife, and he's goading him into punching him, which he does. He fucking punches the shit out of him, but then you just hear, like, the other thing I like about this movie is the sound. The sound is fucking great because when you hear the sound of his leg snap as he gives a punch, it's fucking brutal.
Yeah, that's like a trademark of these films. Like they go, like, the brutality is there, no matter what genre Zoller goes into. It's there.
And his leg is all fucked up at this point, and they basically tell him, you're staying here, and you follow if you need to follow. We'll set the rocks for you, and we'll leave out food and shit if you get to us in time. Melissa, what did you think about this sequence?
Yeah, no, really quick. Yeah, no, the sound design in this movie is fantastic. I feel like it really has like some, I don't know, it really conveys like the dryness and like just like the vibe and the atmosphere of this area. Anyways, no, I audibly was like, fuck, like, because I was like, you know, I didn't want anyone to be left behind, but I kind of felt like it was coming at the same time, like, so I wasn't like terribly surprised, but I was just like, damn, like, and I thought for sure he was dead. Like, I thought like, oh, he's dead and not coming back, but
yeah,
he does come back. Spoilers on spoilers.
So as he is basically laid out on the floor, we continue with Kurt Russell, Matthew Fox, and Richard Jenkins as they continue on, and they end up getting to the little mountain cave area that the troglodytes are at. And this sequence, this is what we were talking about Oregon Control earlier about tension building. This sequence right here is tension building, where Matthew Fox is basically telling him, I'm going to go forward a little bit. I'm going to scout it out. If you see the rock come, I'm going to throw a rock. If you see that come, you know it's good to go. In 10 minutes, if you don't hear that rock, you take the fuck off. And like, you get out of here, because that means that he didn't make it. And there's a sequence there where he's walking forward and we don't hear from him, and you just see Kurt Russell's face, and he goes, fuck, I think the man is dead. He thinks he's fucking dead, but then you see the rock come. And when you first see the rock come, when I first saw it for the first time when it first came out, when I see that rock come, I went, is this the troglodytes fucking with him right now?
Right? Yeah.
Is he going to fucking run? Like, are they setting him up to run into each other right now? Because it definitely seems like it is, but then it cuts, and Matthew Fox has found the little cave that is on top of the mountain area. What did you guys feel about this leading up sequence here?
It's class. I mean, the tension, you're 100% right. Like, this is exactly what the other movie needed. Like, this kind of cat and mouse tension building thing. And the fact that we actually know who these characters are and care about them is also important. So yeah.
Yeah, same.
Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that before the sequence, we find out why Matthew Fox is the way he is, and it's because his wife and his kid were brutally murdered by Native Americans, and that's why he's killed as many as he has, and that's kind of why he has the attitude that he has throughout this. So we get this sequence where they're trying to figure out, okay, how are we gonna get to the cave and rescue the people we need to rescue. And during this, bringing up the sound again, is that the troglodytes have this little bone in their neck that makes this fucking noise, this like animal scream, which is fucking amazing sounding. And you hear that, and you see Matthew Fox get it in the fucking arm with the arrow, and you just like you see Jenkins get hit on the top of his head, and I thought he was gone. At that moment, I thought that man was gone. Like I thought he got it right in the fucking head. And they are all trying to get out of there. They end up taking out 2 of them at first. And Matthew Fox is basically going, I don't want to live as like a gimp. So I am going to sacrifice myself here. I'm going to take out as many as I can. You two need to go back and kind of recover and try to use that way. And that's where we get that fucking sequence of one of the other troglodytes coming up with their little fucking, like, what would you call the weapon that fucker has?
A bone tomahawk?
Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, bone tomahawk, yeah. There we go. Like, that fucking thing.
That's what I'm
like, yeah. He chucks it at him, and you hear a shot go out.
Yeah.
And it just cuts away, which I think is brilliant. And we come back to Kurt Russell and Richard Jenkins. What did you guys feel about Matthew Fox's last stand here?
Well, you're right. The fact that he gets humanized a little bit more, kind of takes the edge off the fact that they've presented him as like a marauder, like a racist marauder for most of the movie. So like you kind of start to humanize him, which is another great thing to do, like a great way to humanize a person and show the duality of a person. But yeah, like you kind of knew, when they started painting his character from the beginning, you kind of knew this guy had to die. And they I think they did it justice. I think that scene is probably, one of the best death scenes you're going to get. Like in a movie like this, it's a good Western death scene. It's a good horror death scene. It's a good horror Western death scene.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, like, yeah, he comes off like such an arrogant asshole, and so it was nice to see this part of him, and it adds to that character, adds the layers where you're maybe conflicted on how you feel, and yeah, like I wasn't surprised that he died either, but I thought it was a good death scene. And also, yeah, when Richard Jenkins got like hit in the head, like I feel like you can see his brain. Like,
yeah, no, it looks like he got fucked up.
My moves are just bad. They're just bad looking.
I was like, I had to like pause, and I was like, whoa, look at it.
So then we get to Kurt Russell and Richard Jenkins. They go back to the original spot where Matthew Fox had thrown the rock, and as they get there, Richard Jenkins takes it in the fucking hand this time by one of the arrows, and the troglodytes come after him. And Kurt Russell gets overtaken by one of them and is being basically choked out. And then has the fucking tomahawk in the mouth of him. Like he puts it all the way in his mouth and then turns his head, and then they knock him out. And as they're dragging him, that's where we finally see that Matthew Fox didn't make it because he gets a fucking tomahawk in the face. Like, but then you see that he also took out one of them. So now we got three dead at this point. And as they're being dragged away, we cut back to Patrick Wilson, who wakes up and he starts his journey forward, following the rocks. And as he gets to a point where he needs to lay down and sleep. He needs to just rest. And as he does that, we hear the fucking noise of the troglodytes again, and he barely gets it. Like they chuck an arrow at him, and it barely misses him. He ends up able to take out. How many did they take out? 2 of them?
I think 2 at that point.
Yeah, 2. Because he takes out one of them right away, and then the other one shows up. And he takes him out, and that's where he cuts out the little bone thing they've been using to use that sound, and he figures out, okay, I can use this for my own benefit. And one of the ways he does that is the first time he uses it, it still has the type of the meat from the neck in there, which is nasty. He has to spit that out just to use it, and that's where he sees one of them shows up, and he's able to kill the other one. What did you guys think of this coming sequence of Patrick Wilson making his way towards them?
I was nervous. I was very nervous because I was just like, how is he going to get through this? These guys are brutal as hell. And you have like no legs basically right now. But hey, it was badass.
You know, when Patrick Wilson shows up in a horror movie, he's a G. He's gonna be all right. No, Ed Warren ain't no bitch. He's gonna kill some people.
So now go ahead, John.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh, so we cut to the cave now, and we figure out that David Arquette has already been killed. He's already gone, and it's just
Deputy Nick.
Yeah, it's Deputy Nick and Lily Simmons still alive, and Deputy Nick is all fucked up, and Kurt Russell and Richard Jenkins get put in this like cell that they built by putting a knife into the wall to make sure that they can't move. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, we got the cave right there. You can see the little prison cell right there to the left. I like that. Now they end up dragging out the deputy, and this man, fuck.
This is that scene they talk about in all those gruesome scenes. If you watch it, this is the scene they're talking about.
Yeah, they strip him, and Kurt Russell's just telling him to wake up, that he needs to wake up, and they end up stripping him. They scalp him in the most brutal fucking fashion, and then they turn him upside down and just fucking cave in his nuts and just keep stabbing and stabbing until his whole fucking body just splits open. One of the most brutal fucking sequences in life.
If you've seen Terrifier, it's like that.
Yeah.
But more brutal, sort of.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's a very realistic looking. Like, it's fucking nuts. What did you guys feel about this death sequence of poor Deputy Nick, who never had a shot in hell?
Before I heard about this movie, like it was showing up on lists of like, you know, there's a scene in this movie that's like it's fucked. Like you're gonna like vomit or run away or pause. And I was like, oh, I got so far in the movie, I'm like, what are they talking about? And then this happened. I was like, God, I wasn't ready for that shit. The first time I watched it, this time I knew it was coming, and it is freaking gruesome. It's very, 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 very gruesome.
Yeah, I had no idea it was coming. I was shocked, honestly. Like my jaw was wide open, like but at the same time, like, I don't know, maybe I'm sick, but I mean I love gruesome death, so it was great.
And my man right behind Melissa, Gino Seegers, there's the guy doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Man. Yeah.
That fucking guy. Yeah.
Bringing it.
Now we get back to where now they're trying to figure out, okay, how the hell are we gonna help? Because they know Patrick Wilson's coming. They know that with his attitude, he's not stopping, so he's gonna come eventually. So they're trying to figure out how can we help him through this to try to survive with all these fucking crazy assholes. So they went, let's use the opium that he was wanting to use for his leg, and let's pretend to drink it and have these guys drink it, and maybe we can kill one of them, make a couple sick, which ends up working. They end up drinking it. One dies while the other one just fucking gets knocked out. And then we cut back. We cut to Arthur, where he's made it to the cave. He's made it to the outside of the cave. He's made it to that area, and he's trying to figure out how he's going to get up there. And that's when the main leader of the troglodytes is very pissed off. He ends up grabbing Kurt Russell, and this is just another brutal sequence. They open him up. They open up his stomach, and they stick the hot liquor canister that they were using. They threw in the fire to put it inside of his body, and then he shoots him. And the shot, like the reaction to Kurt Russell when he gets shot, is just fucking brutal, because he knows he's fucked. At that moment, he knows. And I love how during the sequence, Arthur is using the little noise thing to try to get them to distract him to come and shoot them, and they're hearing the shots banging out. And that's when the troglodyte leader is figuring out he knows how to use the gun now. And Kurt Russell, like one of the shellings falls into his mouth, and he spits it out, and he's trying to tell him that he has a gun, and that's when he gets shot. And that's when Patrick Wilson is able to shoot the man and take him out. What did you guys feel about this last hurrah of Kurt Russell and the group as Patrick Wilson is able to rescue them?
The good guys win, I guess. At what cost? Yeah, again, another brutal scene. But Melissa, go ahead, Dave. I think you might have more to say that than I do.
I don't know, but I thought, I mean, the ending is like the last 20-ish minutes or 40. I don't even know how long the sequence is, but it's awesome. Like I was definitely like excited for like some brutality to happen, and it happens. No, and I do think it's like kind of selfless that he's just like, hey, I'm gonna be here, and I'll just, I think he's just kind of posted up with his gun, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'll just shoot anyone who comes in, and like I know I'm gonna fucking die, so like just I'm good. And like I don't know, I liked that ending for that character.
And I'll say one thing because of what we said before. Like at this point in the movie, we're 2 hours in, right?
Yeah.
The movie's over 2 hours long, and I don't care that this movie's over 2 hours.
Oh yeah, no, I don't feel the time at all
because like the characters are fucking great, and you want to be with these characters and just see what's going on. And the enemy is not complicated. It is a simple, brutal, like cannibal, like subhuman cannibal tribe. Like,
yeah,
you don't have to waste any time with it. You know what's up. But they establish them right away. They spend the time establishing these characters, establishing this world. This is how you tell a story.
Which I want to bring, before we get to the very end of this, I want to bring up one thing that during the portion in the cave is when Deputy Nick is dying. Kurt Russell is kind of telling him, "Hey, we're gonna get revenge on him. Like the cavalry's coming." He's trying to give him hope while he knows that he's gonna die. And then Richard Jenkins does that to Kurt Russell while Kurt Russell is being opened up, which I think is a very sweet moment, because Richard Jenkins asks Kurt Russell why did he, like, if he knows the cavalry isn't coming, why is he telling him it? And he's telling him just to give any last hope that you have that, hey, we're going to be avenged for what's about to happen. And Richard Jenkins does the same thing to him. Now, while Patrick Wilson and Richard Jenkins and Samantha are being brought out of the cave, they come across a pregnant troglodytes who have stakes in their fucking eyes. Is very
no limbs,
yeah, and they've just been used there, and it's very fucking vicious, very extreme. And as they're leaving, they use a whistle to hear if anybody's coming in. They escape the cave, and that's when you hear the final gunshots from Kurt Russell, and then the movie ends. What did you guys feel about the last couple moments of this movie, of them coming across the pregnant women and then them leaving the cave?
Oh, it was a trip. I was like, holy shit. I'm glad I'm not a woman in this tribe, because yikes, my eyes. It looked like it hurt so bad, but it looked also like they were born with it in a way. It was very interesting. But again, great like makeup effects. Like it's very kind of shocking to look at.
Yeah, and honestly, like, not to spoil any other movies that this director has done, but that ending is like becoming a trademark, I would say, for him. Like, it's just like, this is how we're ending it. That's it. You figure it out. Screw you. Here you go.
Now, before we get to the ratings, did you guys want to bring up anything that we haven't touched upon with this?
I just have some fun facts, as always.
Oh, yeah.
So, this movie took 2 years to raise money for it, which is crazy. And then they filmed it for 21 days. That's insane with how well this movie is. How
much footage they have. Like it's over 2 hour movie.
Yeah. So like, those takes were only like 2 or 3 takes, like at least, like not very many. So just yes. And then also this film wrapped up on a Saturday. And then Kurt Russell did Hateful Eight on a Monday. Started shooting.
Fucking ass.
I'm like, what the hell?
Oh, yeah.
So, those were my fun facts.
I love that. That is awesome.
Same character.
Right?
Basically. growing out that mustache.
Yeah, I don't know anything to add. Like, yeah, this is a great movie. Just watch it if you haven't. Shame on you if you haven't seen it.
So let's get to the ratings. Let's start with John this time. John, what did you rate Bone Tomahawk?
I think I was kind of like going back and forth, but like honestly, like the more I talk about this movie, it's a 5. This is like one of those movies that I would like. If somebody was like, John, have you seen any horror westerns? I don't know. Have you seen Bone Tomahawk? You know, it'd be the first thing I would tell somebody. Like, I think I love the characters. I love the story. I love freaking Geno Seegers, man. I'd marry Geno Seegers in a minute. Yeah, everything about this movie is great.
I like it. Melissa, how about you?
Yeah, I was also going back and forth on a rating, but I will go 4. I'm gonna go 4 VHS tapes. I think it will go up on rewatches. Yeah, there's a lot to love here. I feel like the characters are written really well. I think this is a great director debut as well. I also just think in general, horror westerns is just like I just think that there's something here. Like, I think there needs to be more. I feel like it's an untapped area because there's really not that many. I am not a Western person at all. I constantly talk about it on a different show that I do. So like, I think horror Westerns are the way to go. Like, yes, I want more of this.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that we need more horror Westerns because I think it is definitely untapped. I think it can be great stuff done with it. And for me, yeah, it's Kurt Russell and a Western. I absolutely fucking love this movie. I gave it a 5. It's a quintessential great fucking movie. I can watch this movie so many times and just enjoy it. It's very brutal, and everyone just does such a great job in it. So that is it. For next week, John, would you like to say what we're doing for next week?
Sure. We actually are going to get like a new release that's been a few weeks. I've been hearing a lot of hype about The Boogeyman. Yeah, Stephen King's The Boogeyman. So we're going to cover that. Like, you should have known we're going to cover that. And then, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's so many movies called The Boogeyman. And no, we're not talking about the shitty one with the dude from Seventh Heaven. There was one made when I was a little kid, The Boogeyman from 1980. So we're going to cover the new Boogeyman and the one from however old I am years ago, the other Boogeyman.
I like it. That's going to be a fun time. Melissa, are you excited for next week?
Yeah, I'm excited for Boogeyman Squared next week. Be great. It's going to be great.
You only have to write the thing twice. Boogeyman slash
Boogeyman. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe. Check out our TikTok. Melissa's been doing great fucking videos on our TikTok. Amazing shit. Go check out our other stuff that we have. We got a lot of upcoming, including TLU. It's going to be upcoming. We got stuff recorded. We're going to be releasing them very soon, so make sure to check that out. And yeah, that's been John. That's been Melissa. I'm Mike, and we will see you next week for Why We Love Horror.
She wouldn't even harm a fly. Hurry back. Be sure to bring your death certificate.